We see a different side in Brewer manager Pat Murphy after a win, a much needed one at Wrigley. But it was not fun to watch, and it wasn't fun for him. We'll get to all that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. We're here daily talking Brewer baseball with you. My host, I am the host, Chuck Freeman. Longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin. At least I think so. And proud host of Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. This show is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah, the right place, the right stay. Can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. All right. Brewers come up with a 1-0 win at Wrigley Field, and manager Pat Murphy did something unusual. We'll get to all that coming up next year. We're going to talk about Christian Yelich, too, possibly, even by the time you watch this episode, depending on how early you get up in the morning, might be on the injured list. We'll get to all that. Yeah, 1-0 win over the Cubs. And my gosh, I mean, is there a team in baseball? Now, I'm not going to throw water on a win. Okay, a win is a win. I'm not going to, because I don't want to be that guy to be critical of a win. But I'll say this about winning, okay? Sometimes if you win a game, you don't always have to feel good about winning a game. Sure, you feel that you got the win, but the Brewers did not play well at all on Tuesday night in that win. So many mistakes, and Pat Murphy certainly was not happy after the game, despite the win. Said we got to start doing the little things on this team. We didn't execute. A lot of these moments that we had tonight, those are teaching moments for our baseball team. Churio, what was he doing? Running from a base hit late in that game, made the turn, tried going to second, pulled up about halfway through. He shouldn't have ever went to second. Ran through the stop sign. I still don't know what he was trying to do. Bryce Terang laying down a bunt on a 3-0 count. What was that about? Again, just some bizarre things. Garrett Mitchell, a bunt attempt and the slide home. Ortiz, guys charging from first and third, trying to lay down the bunt. Huh? Pop out, right in front of him. The world knew he was going to bunt, and Bodie came charging down first base, fielded cleanly right in front of him. Could have shook hands with Ortiz, but a bunch of mistakes, a bunch of bad mistakes. So what happened in this game? Now you'd feel worse about it if you lost. You would, but the Brewers have not played two good games. Two fundamentally sound games, two well-executed games, runners left on base. These mistakes I was just telling you about, it was not a good win. But what was interesting, and I have never heard this ever happen. I've never seen this, and this is the first I've ever heard of something like this happening. Pat Murphy, the manager, went and talked to the media after the game. And then he came back with the media right there near the middle of the Brewers clubhouse, the visiting clubhouse at Wrigley, gathered his young players around in front of everybody and gave them a direct talk that, hey, guys, this is not acceptable. We got to start doing things right in front of everybody. Now, I don't know if Murphy forgot to say something to these guys before the game, before he talked to the media, because what happens usually, there's a 10-minute cooling off period where you don't go into the locker room for 10 or 15 minutes. The media is allowed in the locker room after games. We do our interviews. So in the meantime, while that locker room is closed, the manager will talk to the media. So Murphy will talk to the media away from the clubhouse. During that 10 minutes between the end of the game and by the time the manager talks with the media, Murphy probably will say a few things to his team after the game, maybe sometimes not. Whatever. If he's got something to get off his chest, the manager will say something to his team during those 10 minutes. And he can take longer. I've seen it go 20 minutes, half hour. So, and not necessarily the Brewers, but other teams, especially after a loss. But I don't know if Murphy talked to his team beforehand, but he went to talk to the media after that 10 minutes of cooling down period for the team. And then he came right back and something that he normally would have done behind closed doors. He gave a stern talk to his players saying, guys, we can't be playing like this. And it was there for the Adam McCalvies and Kurt Hogues and anybody who was in that locker room covering the game, waiting to talk to players who were coming out of the showers and all that to hear. So maybe Murphy was trying to, or didn't care, or wanted to prove a point in front of the media. I don't know, but it was just a little odd to hear that happen tonight and to see that on Twitter. Nonetheless, this is probably something in another lore of Pat Murphy doing certain things unconventional. Yeah, doing certain things unconventional, which he has done all season long, and the results are there. 15 games over the 500 mark, first place when everybody else had 76 wins. They're going to far exceed that. But, yeah, those mistakes the Brewers made, and then they come up late in the game. Bryce Terang, an RBI single, who has been struggling as of late, and did lay down a bunt on a 3-0 count, which I don't know if I've ever seen that ever even done. So he comes through with a hit. But there were some positive things in this game. There were some positive things. Colin Ray, 8 strikeouts, 5 innings. And why 5 innings? Well, ran into a high pitch count. Had some traffic aboard in some of those previous innings, and they got him out of there. But the positive was, and Colin Ray was a positive. Koenig, Hudson, Piguero, and of course, McGill closing it out in the 9th inning, despite giving up a base hit to lead off the inning, stranding that runner on second base to finish off the game. So 5 guys combine on a shutout win of the Cubs. Yep, it wasn't all that pretty. These 1-0 games, I don't get it. I'm telling you, this dates back to the last couple of years. I do not get it. Man, you could just smell it coming. When it is a scoreless game in the 3rd inning, you ought to just bet the under, because that under's coming down. You just ought to do it, because rarely do you see a game when the Brewers are scoreless through the first few innings that they end up putting up a big number. They did in extra innings on Saturday night. But my gosh. And here we go, back and forth, stranding runners. The Cubs are stranding guys on base too. But man, I'm telling you, I don't remember any baseball team in the last couple of years that I've seen or heard of that has played in more 1-0 games into the 6th or 7th inning. And this time, or scoreless games, like last night was scoreless going into the 8th inning. But again, thank God they pulled it out. Thank God they pulled it out, because it would have made things worse making all these mistakes. And knowing that Christian Yelich could be going on the injured list. Yeah, he could be going on the injured list. We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Talk to you about Booking.com. Booking.com. Hey, if you want to book a trip, maybe to St. Louis next month, you have a road trip in mind, Booking.com is a place to go. Maybe you want to head up north. Maybe you're heading up to Door County. Bed and breakfasts, hotels, vacation rentals, resorts, all there on Booking.com. You'll find your perfect stay. Even in maybe St. Louis. St. Louis, you're going to head down there maybe in a couple of weeks, mid-August. Hey, You want to take it. It's nothing better than going. I mean, there's certain things better, but I enjoy going into a visiting ballpark. Now, I don't like when I go to a visiting ballpark and my team loses, especially in the postseason. But hey, a road trip is always a good thing. And follow the Brewers. Fans have been just following the Brewers all year long. Booking.com, the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or on the Booking.com app. Also, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, well, PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Over 5 million active members. PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more, pick less, 2 to 6 player stat projections, and watch those winnings roll right in. Get in on all the daily action with all your friends. Become part of PrizePicks daily sports community today. Excuse me. I had to do that. I've had to call for the last 10 minutes. Been trying to hold it in. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with PrizePicks. Do it today. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm going to take a drink. Oh, man. Feeling good all day. And your late night game was delayed by like 90 minutes. Brewers game was because of heavy rain. Man, there was a torrential downpour. Where I live, just a little north of Milwaukee, we didn't get any rain. I got a ton of it to the south of us, Milwaukee area, and Wrigley Field. All right, Christian Yelich. Tightness in that back. When Rhys Hoskins walked out and pinch hit against the right-handed pitcher for Christian Yelich, it was like, oh no, here we go. Sure enough, the back is flaring up again. He DH'd, went 0 for 1. Murphy says it's a distinct possibility that Yelich is headed for the injured list. Man, can't keep him healthy. You cannot keep him healthy. Guy, things are going well. He's running the bases like a deer. You know, it takes him 3 steps to get from second to third. Belly flopping. Playing great defense out there. Looking great at the plate. And then here he is. That back has been bothering him in the last couple of days. It's been a while. But it's back. You just, they're never going to lick that thing. They're never going to defeat it. It's just going to be here forever. It's just something like I've said many times here on this podcast, something that we're just going to have to learn to live with. It's just, you don't hope it's not going to be a month. Like last time was an extended period with that back. It just never was getting healthy. And hopefully that's not the case because we're coming up on August here. Got a division to win. Maybe even catch the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are playing well. Maybe even catching them. But they're going to need Christian Yelich, a healthy Christian Yelich. Keep your fingers crossed. And like I said, by the time you see or listen to this podcast, Christian Yelich may already be on the injured list. On the injured list. But my gosh, it's frustrating because he's having such a good year. He's fighting for a batting title. Now, I don't care, whether or not he wins the batting title or not. These awards, as I've said, winning all these awards, these postseason awards, I don't care. I want to win championships. But Christian Yelich, being among the leaders in batting average, shows he's having a pretty good year. Started in center field, and there was some talk that maybe he should have played in the All-Star game last week. I don't know. I'm not going to hold that against him. Not at all. I'm not going to hold that against Yelich playing in the All-Star game, unless his back was bothering him. But Yelich is a smart guy, and if his back was bothering him, he wouldn't have played in that game. But that tightness was going to flare up, and apparently it flared up over the weekend in Minnesota. We'll see, again, whether or not he's going to go on the injured list. Be a sad day if he's got to go on the injured list again. All right. Brewers have a big decision to make A big decision to make coming up. What are they going to do? Big decision coming up on Wednesday. We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Game time. Maybe you're heading down to Wrigley. Maybe you're heading down to Wrigley and you want to get some tickets for the game coming up on Wednesday afternoon. 1:20 on Sirius XM. The SXM app, search Brewers. You can get all 162. If you search Cubs, you're going to get Pat Hughes, the one-time Brewer announcer. But game time. Tickets are on there, available for the afternoon. Hey, maybe you get up in the morning, you start listening to this Brewer podcast and gets the blood moving a little bit. And you're thinking, I don't, going down to Wrigley, skipping work and being like Ferris Bueller and going to a Cubs game. Cubs and Brewers might be a great idea. I thought about going down. I am not going. But if you want to go, Game Time is the place to go. Game Time, flash deals, save on all exclusive in-app deals on select seats, zone deals, all in pricing, so you get that total up front. In fact, the seat views, get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy it. You'll be able to touch it. It'll show you, hey, this is how close you are to home plate. You're going to love it. Game Time is the way to go if you want to buy tickets to not only Brewers games or games at Wrigley, but concerts, theater, a lot of great concerts coming up. And go to the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB, $20. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed with Game Time. Also, you want to get on the action? Maybe you did. Maybe you got in on the action with FanDuel on Tuesday night. You took the Brewers at a slight underdog. I think they're a plus 105. I think I saw that. Well, FanDuel.com is a summer full of fun with FanDuel. Baseball is the hot ticket right now. And, FanDuel is there for you. They got bonuses. They got stuff going on daily. Man, you need to check it out. FanDuel, you want to get on the action. Preseason football's coming up here in a little bit. You want to get in on that, find some edge on that. But FanDuel, Brewers and Cubs coming up. I'm going to check real quick. I think the Brewers are probably, with Justin Steele on the mound, I would say that's probably a slight underdog. Oh, there's no line because the Brewers have not announced their starting pitcher as of yet. But FanDuel is the way to go. FanDuel.com. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. All right, you get our podcast on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all the major downloads. Wherever you download your podcast, we're there. It's all free. There's a ton of places you can get podcasts these days, and we are on all of them. We're on all of them because we're the number one Brewers podcast on the internet because of you great Brewers fans out there. Also, our growing YouTube page. Please, even if you download the audio version, hit us up on YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. There's a comment section down there. I read them all the time. I see in the middle of the night you guys are commenting. And follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. Please follow me on Twitter. You want to direct message me? You want to talk Brewer baseball with me? I read all the comments. First thing I do when I get up in the morning, go to my phone, see what you all had to say on YouTube. See how you had to say on Twitter. Because, man, Brewer baseball is what I live, man. This is what I do. Cover Brewer baseball for you, the great Brewer fans that we're trying to get this team to another World Series for the first time in 42 years. All right, Brewers will have a decision to make. Justin Steele, the left-hander on the mound, and it sounds to me that Murphy is going to have Sanchez in the lineup. Sanchez returns. Sanchez returns on Wednesday to face the lefty. They got Sanchez to face left-handed hitters, whether off the bench or when they're starting. That's the reason Sanchez is on this team. Okay, so Sanchez is going to take his licks to the plate. He is on this team. I know some of you thought, hey, are they going to DFA him? No, they're not DFA him unless he goes completely in the tank, but they're committed to him. But one guy they're not committed to is Eric Haas, who should have won a spot on this team through what he did at spring training. He should have won a spot in this team. He should have a spot on this team based on what he's done in a short time here with Sanchez on the injured list. Haas has done enough to be on this team. It would be just an outright joke if the Brewers DFA Eric Haas. Again, you might be getting this podcast and he might already be DFA'd because it's an afternoon game tomorrow. But the Brewers are making a decision tomorrow morning. We will know, will Haas be the one who's DFA'd, or will they send Monasterio down? Haas could play some outfield spots. He's versatile. I don't think they'll send Monasterio down. They're certainly not DFAing him. But who knows? But big decision to make. I'm sure the Brewers already know. They're not going to wake up on Wednesday morning and say, oh, let's see what we're going to do now that Sanchez is ready to go. That decision has already been made. And I hope it's not Eric Haas. He's done enough. He should have been on this team. They signed him or they traded for him for a reason in the offseason. One of the first moves they made in the offseason. Professional at bats. I like him. I love him, actually. I love Eric Haas. I like what he does, and I'm pulling for him. I want Eric Haas on this team. All right. Brewers wind it up. TBA against Justin Steele. A buddy of mine messaged me and said, why do we always make these Cub pitchers look like Cy Young? Jameson Taillon, Assad the night before, although Assad, we let him off the hook a lot of times. The Brewers did. I mean, 6 walks in 4 innings, no earned runs. They let him off the hook. But man, I don't know. Seems like Wrigley, it's been tough scoring runs down there. But the bottom line is the Brewers have a chance to take 2 or 3. 2 or 3 coming back home this weekend to face the Miami Marlins. So, hey, it didn't go well with you Monday, and you got a loss, 3-1. Didn't go well Tuesday night, snuck out a win, 1-0. The Brewers have scored 2 runs in 2 games, have split the series so far. Let's see who's pitching and get the win and come back home for Friday's game. Brewers did sign their 2 top draft picks, Braylon Payne and Blake Burke. Nice little picture of the fellas together. And hopefully they're here in a couple of years. I really like Payne. If you saw my podcast, one of my podcasts last week, I was just gloating over him. You know, a guy who was, they could have got maybe in the 2nd round, but they picked him in the 1st round. Burke, a first baseman. So love that these guys are in the fold. And if you followed the Brewers in the 80s, you know how it used to work. They draft the Alex Fernandezes of the world and somehow wouldn't sign them. They'd go back in the draft the following year and they would lose that player. Not going to happen with Payne or Burke. All right. That's going to do it. Again, pitching took care of business on Tuesday night. A lot of errors. Murphy was not happy with his team. He handed out the T-shirts a couple of weeks ago. He went handing out T-shirts in the middle of that locker room. He was handing down a vocal, not beat down, but a stern talk. Guys, this is what we got to do to win ball games. And you know what? This is part of the aura of Pat Murphy. Successful manager this year. Is he here for a long time? Who knows? He's here for this year, doing a heck of a job. We'll see if they clean up those mistakes, because the mistakes cannot happen. Young team or not, there's no excuse. Brewers can't be throwing the ball around, can't be laying down bunts with 3-0 counts, can't be going through stop signs, turning first base, can't be popping up bunts, all that. God. Got a lot of riding on this year. 15 games over the 500 mark And this team has come too far to let stupid mistakes. You know what? I've said about this team, this is a smart baseball team, and they are. They made some dumb mistakes on Tuesday night and got away with it. Murphy trying to put an end to it. That's going to do it for me. End of the podcast. My name is Chuck Freeman. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Have yourself a great Wednesday, everybody.